Talk more about his win. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, Liz. How are you? Good afternoon.
I am well, so congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And were you surprised? Because it looked for a while there that the Democrats and Senator Antoine Thompson were going to fight to the death.
Well, Liz, I knew that after the absentee ballots and some of the affidavit ballots that were counted, and my lead was still a little bit over 500, that at that point I started feeling confident that our campaign was going to be successful in that race. However, I was still cautiously optimistic. I was hoping that they weren't going to go ahead and try to count 61,000 votes. And I'm happy that the process now is behind us and we can move forward.
Did Senator Thompson actually call you to concede? Because he did issue a statement this morning that was pretty terse, and it wasn't very personal. I know it's difficult, obviously, to lose, but my sources were telling me he was going back and forth quite a bit, and it was sort of touch and go as to whether he actually would concede. Yesterday, he said it was too premature. He was in Albany for the session. Did he call you and speak to you?
No, I received no phone call from Senator Thompson, no communication whatsoever. I heard from my campaign manager and from family that, in fact, he had sent out a statement that he conceded. I, in fact, have not even seen the statement, but that's what I was told myself, too. But I received no phone call. Do
you find that inappropriate? I mean, do you want to speak with him?
Well, you know, that's Senator Thompson's decision. I mean, I wish him all the best of luck. I'm happy, in fact, that he did concede so we can have this process behind us so we can move forward with our team and our transition, and for the people of Western New York and the 60th District to move forward and be ready to go to Albany to have our issues addressed there and bring back our resources back here to Western New York.
Okay, so as I mentioned, actually, technically speaking, you're actually still a Democrat, are you not?
I actually, up probably until January 1st, I'm still registered as a Democrat. As of January 1st, most likely as a Republican.
Right. So what made you decide to switch? I mean, is it because it was an ideological feeling for you, or because it was politically expedient?
Well, Liz, I felt that with the, you know, as you mentioned earlier, I challenged Senator Thompson in a Democratic primary. I was thinking about challenging him in a Democratic primary this time around, but I wasn't really getting any help from the Democratic leadership. It has nothing to do with the people who are Democrats. It had to do with the Democratic leadership that I was not getting any help from whatsoever. And once we knew that our campaign was going forward, and I received the support from the conservative, the independent, and the Republican lines, I felt confident that if they have their faith and confidence in me, that I had no problem showing them that I'm a man of my word and that I would caucus with the Republicans. But they also know that on issues that affect Western New York, I have no problem in voting with the Democrats. They've known all along that I'm a person that's with bipartisan support. You could tell by the votes in the 60th District that I had voters from all party lines, and I'm very thankful for that. And it's not to me a question of, oh, you're a Democrat or a Republican. It's making sure that you have solid representation and get what you want for your area in Western New York in the 60th District. And that's what I'm hoping to accomplish in these next 2 years going in as the next senator.
So you were not in Albany for the special session, the lame duck session. We've been calling it the do-nothing session, whichever you would prefer. I'm just curious what you thought of it. I'm sure from afar you paid some attention. Obviously, you are probably going to be here and you were watching. What did you think of it? Because it, for many people, looked like more of the same dysfunction, and it was pretty alarming.
Well, you know, it is actually unfortunate that nothing was done yesterday. I was in Buffalo, so I was not in Albany. As you may know, I do have a law practice, so I'm taking care of certain matters that I need to take care of here in Buffalo. But what happened yesterday, it's unfortunate because I believe there were a couple of items that could have been decided to help alleviate some of whether it's $315 million or $900 million. There could have been some relief there. Whether or not they're going to be called back before the end of the year is anybody's guess. But hopefully that same taste or flavor that people saw yesterday does not continue past January 1st.
Had you been here, you would have voted for Dean Skelos for minority and or majority leader, depending on how it ends up?
Yes.
You would have, okay. You know, you mentioned something about your law practice, and I'm curious, what is your position on disclosure? Because there's been talk about, in the ethics reform bill, would require full disclosure of outside business interests, including potentially the client lists of attorneys who are also lawmakers.
Well, I would have no problem with that, Liz. My particular practice, I practice law in a very poor area of the lower west side. I do have clients that are somewhat wealthy, but most of my clients I do work either on a pro bono basis or on a basis that's more conducive to what they can afford, which many times is nothing. And we're proud of that fact because we've been in the lower west side of Buffalo since 1921. I would have no problem in a new ethic reforms having full disclosure of finances or campaign finance wherever they come in from. Actually, I'm a proponent, and that was part of my campaign, is we need new ethic reform laws, not just in campaign financing, but in other areas as well, so people understand and realize what actually happens in Albany and nothing can be hidden.
You know, when you get here, obviously, there are going to be a lot of different issues going on. A lot of it has to do with budget cuts. There's now, of course, $315 million added to that deficit. You referenced the numbers of someplace between $315 and $900 million, depending on whose numbers you're believing. But it's going to be added to a $9 to $10 billion budget deficit that Governor-elect Cuomo is facing when he comes in. When we saw the last budget battle, we saw Senator Stokowski, who is outgoing and also one of your fellow Buffalonians out there, hold everything up based on UB 2020. So I'm curious what you would do. Will UB 2020 be a deal breaker for you?
UB 2020 is something that's very important to me, and I think UB 2020 is something that will pass and will go forward. Other areas that you have to look at, as I'm sure you're aware of, Liz, is that you have extreme amounts being spent not only on Medicaid but also in education, both programs which are severely failing in certain areas. Medicaid has extreme fraud and abuse that's rippled throughout that particular program. I think that there are ways to save millions, if not tens of millions of dollars regarding Medicaid. And on the educational side, with a poor graduation rate, I think that there are areas that need to be taken care of that can help save money on those ends, as well as cutting government spending. I believe that Governor Cuomo has stated that he will look strongly not only at where some fat can be trimmed, but also taking a look at some of the authorities that have duplicative services, some of the authorities that actually are non-transparent whatsoever, so you have no idea what type of budget they have or what they're actually expending their monies on. And as I said, a lot of them being duplicative, I think those can be actually removed and consolidated. So I think there's many areas that can be combined to help alleviate the deficit, whether it be $9 or $10 billion.
Okay, just to be clear, though, Senator-elect, my question is, would you be willing to hold up the process? In other words, to not vote on a budget or any other major big-ticket item if you thought that you would be able to finagle some kind of deal on UB 2020 and or anything else that you thought was necessary in the 60th?
I think that my representation in the 60th is going to speak loudly for the voters that just recently elected me. And if UB 2020 is one of those areas that is again on the table that could be a deal breaker, then I'm supporting UB 2020. I'm not going to just stand idly by and have a budget get passed and relinquish what is rightfully needs to come to Western New York. You know, UB 2020 in combination with the Buffalo-Niagara Medical Corridor, to me and to a lot of people in this area, is the new Bethlehem Steel. It's something that is going to bring jobs to all members of the community, and it's going to create jobs into the futures, not only for 10 years, but from years to come down the road.
Well, it's going to be an interesting...
So that would be a deal breaker.
It would be. Okay. Well, there are a number of your colleagues who feel the same. So it's going to be quite interesting if you all band together and decide to take a stand. It could be a rather long budget. I'm sure that's not necessarily something that Andrew Cuomo is looking forward to, but we shall see. In the meantime, I want to thank you.
No, I hope that doesn't happen.
For joining us. Me too, actually. I want to thank you for joining us, Mark Grisanti, Senator-elect now from the 60th
Senatorial
District.